We'll start with the dollar, which has been back and forth, back and forth. We had a bit of news yesterday, but yeah, it didn't really affect the market much. A little bit of a bounce, but altogether, DXY is still very much trapped within this range. So, in terms of opportunities, there's not much I'm looking at, not much I'm looking to trade, at least for now anyway. As I've been saying, waiting for price to kind of explode outside this range to find a direction, and then we can look for opportunities in terms of trending opportunities. Of course, looking to buy low, sell high. I do understand that's an opportunity within itself. Looking to play the range, it makes a lot of sense. Euro is doing something very similar. There's been opportunities to try and buy the lows and sell the highs there as well. So if you're looking at range play, of course, there's something that could potentially happen. Probably not today, since today's already Friday, so probably early next week or some point next week. We could be trading at these lows, potentially if we see some adequate rejection. There could be some nice longs there on the dollar or perhaps shorts on euro dollar. So within the range, there are opportunities within itself, but in terms of looking for the next big swing, you're back to highs, back to lows, is this overall trend going to continue and price going to continue lower, or are we going to reverse and start to see an uptrend? That question is still up in the air. We are still in an area where we could potentially form a higher low, but equally we are having trouble at seeing that higher low really form and break into the upside. So until I see price do something like this, up or down, my kind of long-term bias, swing bias, is very much paused at this moment in time. So until we get the breakout, as I said, just kind of looking to trade the range really until we can get a sustained break. Euro dollar, pretty much the same outlook as well. Very flat at the moment, equal highs, equal lows, and we've been back and forth. Lovely rejection this week. Price came back into the low. Nice rejection of that, and now looks like price is trying to make a way back to the high of the range, where again we'll go through the same situation. Does price find resistance there and fall over? Do we get the breakout? And again, we've got a long-term uptrend at play. If this uptrend is still alive and well, still kicking, I do want to see price make a move above the range high, break out that counter trend line as well. Then at that point, we got an uptrend back on our hands and probably going to tick off these highs and so on and so forth. Likewise, if price is going to top out, if this is going to be a lower high like we'll be doing over here, then I do want to see price clear the low of this range. And then we can be talking about a push here and maybe price going further as well. So DXY, Euro USD, pretty much giving us the same outlook, same analysis. Very, very flat, confined between support and resistance until we get a major break of one of those two levels. Again, my swing bias is pretty much paused, pretty much neutral. But like I said, if you're looking for more intraday opportunities, perhaps you're looking to try and catch a short at that high if we can see some nice rejection maybe next week. Pound USD, similar as well. I would also say we're quite flat with Pound USD. Again, trying to trade in these areas might be a bit difficult. Because you're not seeing price, show any signs of continuation. We've got really strong candles over here, but they didn't really amount to nothing. So it's a sign that, okay, despite the strength, despite momentum, we're not seeing any conviction. We're seeing big candles, but it's not like it's starting a trend. Price is pushing up aggressively and just coming back down again and pushing back up. So it's effectively choppy conditions, ranging conditions. And again, as someone who prefers trending markets, who prefers direction, we're not quite seeing that right now with pounds. So as I've said, coming into the week, very much is focused on the highs and the lows. If price can, of course, break to the upside, break through resistance there, well, I'll be looking at a push back to the swing high at 1.38 almost. And if you do break to the downside, well, of course, I'll be pretty bearish and looking for a swing back into the lows here around 1.315. So as price chops around in here, not really interested, at least in my personal trading anyway, I'm not really interested in the price action. More so once we do pick a direction, which at the moment isn't looking quite clear. Still finding resistance, but we're still finding support as well. So very much up in the air. And I think this all ties back to dollar. Dollar's really flat as well. So when dollar finally picks a direction, then hopefully pound USD will pick a direction as well. And we'll see some opportunities off the back of that. Dollar CAD, however, is looking really bearish. And yeah, I think we can see more downside for dollar CAD. If you look at the higher time frames and where we're trading, we're rejecting a very, very critical level of resistance, which I think is quite interesting because if we do a good job here, if we reject the level well here, it could actually kickstart a really big downturn for dollar CAD. You can see we've found resistance here on a few occasions, each time giving us some really serious bearish moves. We're back here again. This is almost looking like a massive fake out of that same level. And I wouldn't be surprised if we push back to lows here. I wouldn't be surprised if we push back to lows here. I wouldn't even be surprised if we push all the way down here as well. Effectively, dollar CAD has been ranging between support and resistance. And if you view this as a big fake out and now we're back within the range, there's a pretty good chance you do end up back at the low of the range, near enough 1.32. Of course, there's a very long-term swing bias, but you wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. At least the pushback to this area I think is pretty reasonable. You can see the weekly price action. Of course, today's Friday, so we're going to get the weekly candles closing. I think we get the monthly candles. Yeah, we do get the monthly candle closing today as well. Just realized that. So again, the weekly and the monthly close, and we can look at a few weekly and monthly candle close as we go through the stream, because I'm quite interested to see how August is going to close. But at least if you look at the weekly candle here for dollar CAD, we're seeing some fairly decent wicks rejecting such a key level, and it looks like momentum shifting bearish. So I wouldn't be surprised over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks we do make a push to the downside, and dollar CAD shorts is where it's at. So dropping back to the 4-hour chart, now it's starting to get some bearish structure in play with some nice momentum. I would suggest if you can pull back and retest that, that becomes a nice area of supply and a really nice area for a short. So I'm liking what I'm seeing with dollar CAD, really corrective on the way up. I do think we can see price eventually push lower. So despite the DXY not really showing signs of a direction yet, I think dollar CAD speaks for itself really. Aussie dollar pushing to the upside, coming back into resistance. I talked about a couple areas where shorts look good for Aussie dollar. For me, the market's been very, very flat, so I'm not so interested in trading it. But I do think short term you can find some nice opportunities. Really aggressive rejection off this low. Price found support here. Of course, we had some news which caused that price to really skyrocket, but it was a very nice rejection. And the way I see it, the market is quite flat. We're not really having direction, so to speak. You can argue that there's a slight uptrend, but it's really, really flat and nothing I'll get excited about. So the way I'll look to tackle this is just look to find significant resistance, looking for opportunities at those areas, significant support as well, and just see how we perform. I could see a situation where price comes into resistance, it respects it well, it has a nice move, and then potentially continues higher. This move itself could be worthwhile trading. Of course, potentially we could see a big move as well. Anything could happen. But I do think because of how choppy price is and how flat we are likely to see a rejection from this area. If not, then from the high over there. So that's really where my interest is for Aussie dollar. Looking for some reactions off those areas. Not really looking for a big swing, just more so a reaction. Because in terms of direction, I think we're quite flat. I don't really have a bias for Aussie dollar. So it's more so just finding significant levels to short from or buy from. As for New Zealand dollar, this one has been heading in a bit of a descending structure here. We've got the low of the channel and we've got the high of the channel over there, and looks like price is making a move back to the high end. So just continuing, the buyers continuing the market structure. As price moves back into the top end of the channel, this is where of course shorts will become an opportunity again, because all a descending channel is just a range, just at a slant. So you treat it the same, looking to buy at the lows, sell at the highs. Of course, keeping an eye on the breakouts, there could be opportunities there as well. But as price does make a move back to resistance, this could be a nice place for a short, depending how we react and depending what type of price action we see. If, of course, we do see a breakout, that could be a signal to say, okay, we are going to see a continuation. Maybe price makes a move back to highs. We can speak more about that, once we start to see those signs happening. But for now, as we push to the top end of the channel, we'll see what we can get. But naturally, looking for short opportunities and perhaps even a swing back to lows. Of course, USD weakness or strength will play a big role in that. I want to see what the DXY is doing. But for now, that's the best opportunity I can see. And as for gold, gold strength is still at play. We are taking out resistance here. I think the key thing for gold is now that we're pushing back to the top end of the range. So this is where things are going to get interesting again. You can see reactions over there, reactions over there, reactions over there. And now price is not too far away from that same area again. So it's make or break for gold. You know, are we going to break through this area? Are we going to come back and respect it and see another drop? You know, who knows? Only time will tell, really. Of course, if you look at the higher time frames, gold is, of course, in an uptrend overall, but we have been sideways. So this is just price building up for another big move. It might be a bullish swing. It might be a bearish one. Until we get the breakout, I wouldn't really try and pick one or the other. There's no point. Just wait for the breakout, and then we can judge. But as I've been saying all this time, I'm not interested in gold until we do push back to the top or the bottom of the range. We're very close to the top, so this is where opportunities lie, whether we're looking to take breakout opportunities or break and retest opportunities, or price rejects the level well and we do see a move down. We'll find out, one or the other. But this is where the focus is. I would say we're quite corrective, so if price is going to break out, we do need to pick up momentum at some point in time. But yeah, the judgment just depends on how we react with that area for now. So that's where the focus is, around 34.30. And as for silver, looking pretty bullish, I think. Yeah, somewhat. We're stuck at resistance. We did have a nice break and retest of that area of supply, demand, sorry. Nice reaction to the upside, really aggressive candle. Came back for a retest, lovely break of the counter trend line. And we've seen some nice upside since then. Price does have some highs over there at 39.46, which I do think price has a good chance to go and retest. In terms of opportunities for silver, I think the only one that makes sense is if price does push back into the low. I wouldn't want to be buying up here. I mean, maybe some intraday opportunities on like a retest of this area, the last high, which gave us this low break of structure. This could provide support for us to rally again. The only reason why I'm not the biggest fan is because we do have resistance not too far away. So I'd rather we do have that bigger push down. Maybe we can form a nice double bottom at this area of demand. I think naturally that's just a smart place for a buy. Of course, the overall trend is still up for gold, so naturally, looking for buying opportunities. And I do still think there's a good chance we do make our way back to the swing high. So yeah, silver struggling at resistance. It would be nice if we push back down into support and find some longs off there. Maybe we do that, maybe we don't, but that's really where I would like to position myself if I was looking to take some entries. And if we do break to the upside, then there might be some nice intraday break and retest opportunities on the way up, maybe like on the 50-minute chart, something like that. So if we don't have the bigger pullback, that is what I think would be the next best opportunity.